Ayman Khan here for Seconds Out with the one and only Matchroom Boxing CEO, Frank Smith. Frank, sir, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Good to be here in Sheffield. Massive week, massive fight night coming up. So yeah, good to get going.
Good to be here indeed. Good to be speaking to yourself. Lee Wood and Josh Warrington, I'd say both of them really maybe are at crossroads if they're on the losing end of the fight. In terms of their fight futures heading into this weekend, where would you see them both? Where would you assess their careers?
Yeah, look, I think it's a huge fight in their careers, and can really move on from it. Look, there's been a lot of talk about maybe moving up to 130, possibly fighting Joe Caldina, the winner of this fight, which is definitely possible. I think that group of fighters we got at 126 that we've seen over the last year, be that Maurizio Lara coming over fighting Lee Wood, be that Michael Conlon as well. There's some great fights to be made, win, lose or draw in this division. Entertaining fights, intriguing fights. So look, it's a big fight. The winner's going to come away with a big opportunity. But win, lose or draw, I still see there being big fights. And you've got. It's great to see a fight of this scale between two British fighters. Of this level, and it's going to be a big night come Saturday night.
Matchroom can take, I believe, warranted criticism for where Josh Warrington stands right now, but also warranted credit for the job that you've done with Lee Wood. Are you happy with? You must be happy, obviously, with Lee, but in terms of how Josh has been handled, has there been room to kind of improve? Obviously, you can't because it's hindsight, but maybe more could have been done for him, given the asset that he is in terms of fan following, excitement as well, and potential fights.
Yeah, look, I don't really believe so, because you think, we obviously brought him straight back after that Maurizio Lara fight in front of 22,000 people at Headingley in a massive event. Then we delivered him Kiko Martinez world title shot. Wasn't mandatory. It was a voluntary shot. Delivered him that fight at home in Leeds. He won the world title. The mandatory was a tough fight against Lopez. And he went in there. He didn't get the win, but there were fights in between as well that we looked at, smaller fight. He wanted a big fight to come back in at this stage of his career. I don't think he wanted a warm-up fight. I don't think he wanted, a fight just to make up time. Could he have fought a bit sooner? Yes. But there were reasons in that gap. He fought in December, I think it was, against Lopez at Leeds. We were looking at obviously trying to. One of the ideas was to do Lara against Warrington and then the winner fight Wood. Obviously, Wood went straight back into the rematch. But I think we've done a great job with Josh Warrington. Look, you got two guys in there who've built huge fan bases, and you're bringing them both together on Saturday night in Sheffield. It's going to be special. But Lee Wood as well, he deserves so much credit as well. Coming off that that Kanzu win. Where no one really gave him a chance going into that fight at Fight Camp. Then what he's been through, the rematch against Maurizio Lara, getting straight back in there after the way he was finished in the first fight. You have to give him a lot of credit, and it's a massive fight. So I think it's the right fight to make at this time. Could there have been other bits in between? Maybe, but I think we've done a good job with both of them. Just
touching on the status of Maurizio Lara, what is Mauricio's status with Matchroom at the moment?
Working on it now, seeing what's next, potential opportunities. So let's see how it plays out over the next month or two. Look, he was there was a lot of complications in that fight where he didn't make weight. I think he was 4 pound over in the end. Obviously the board didn't allow him to make weight. So let's see, but maybe get back out early part next year.
There's some decent matchups on the undercard. What's the pick of them? And the Conway-Odofia fight seems like a good fighting prospect as well too.
Yeah, look, it's a tremendous undercard from top to bottom. You got some all British clashes. Conway-Udofia is a fight that has been delayed a few times, but glad to finally get it over the line, up and running. So can't wait for that one. Terry Harper defending her world titles against Cecilia Breakhouse as well. Another fight that was supposed to take place back in May. It's a brilliant fight. Cecilia Breakhouse, we all know how what she's done in her career, and for Terry, it's a brilliant fight to keep building on her momentum. Hopi Price against Conor Coghill, another great fight on the card as well. And then you got the young talents as well, in Janae Boston, who we've all seen what he's done already in his career. Cameron Vong as well, who is, everyone is telling us is a special fighter. You got Nico Levias on the card as well. You got Kobe as well. So it's got everything we need in here, from young stars all the way through to compelling matchups. So it's going to be a good night.
Eddie Hearn stated on multiple interviews, I believe as well on Seconds Out, that bit of a stance switch in terms of him or Matchroom not wanting to pay for runouts for fighters, and they want you to match up fighters in tough fights, good fights, which is music to boxing fans' ears. But where's the stance switch come from? Is this a DAZN broadcaster stance switch? Is this a Matchroom stance switch in terms of wanting to push forward and get meaningful fights over the line for boxing fans and boxers involved?
No, look, I think we have to keep building the sport and growing the sport. You only have to look at what UFC have done and created in delivering huge events, and that's because people fight each other. And maybe everyone's been guilty of not making fights when they need to be made. Look, you still have to go through a process of building a fighter, building them through the ranks, but we can't be giving people 8-round cut. We have to go into intriguing fights. And the way I look at it is, it doesn't matter as much now if you lose, providing you go into a proper fight and you give it your all. That's what people want to see. People want to see entertainment. I think it's only for the benefit of the sport. Some people may say you're not taking care of the fighter, but at the end of the day, we want to deliver the best possible opportunities. And if that means the sport growing, fighters getting paid more money because the fights and build-ups are more intriguing, that's what we need. I think it's good, and I think a lot of people will follow suit. You see a lot of other promoters delivering fights that people want to see, and that the pressure's on us as promoters. The pressure's always on us to improve the events, improve the shows, top to bottom, and that's our job.
Pressure's on indeed. And I just wonder sticking on the Matchroom theme, what the current status is in terms of the Saudi partnership. What with the shift in power over there, where do Matchroom stand in terms of making fights in specifically Saudi? I know there's still connections within the region in Abu Dhabi, but are Matchroom out in the cold in terms of a Saudi partnership?
Look, it's quite open about the fights that are made right now. You've obviously got Fury and Ngannou fight, then you've got Fury Usyk, which great news is signed to take place. The key here is they want the best fights possible, and that doesn't matter whether that's Matchroom, Queensbury, Top Rank. They want the best out there, and that's not just in boxing but any sport. They want to bring the best across, and whoever that means working with, I'm sure they will. Look, it's been quite open. We had a very close relationship, obviously, with Prince Khalid and Skill Challenge. We delivered 2 amazing events with them, so of course we'll have a close relationship. But at the same time, the landscape has changed, and I think the GEA and Turkey Al-Sheikh are taking more control of boxing. We're always there, and like I say, the key for them will be delivering the best possible fights, regardless of promotional affiliation, which is good for the sport.
Knowing what you know about boxing, should boxing fans be 2 feet excited jumping in on this Fury versus Usyk signing announcement, considering all the false starts they've had in heavyweight division fights?
I think the fight will happen. I hope it. Look, until in any sport, not in any sport, in any fight that's announced, you always have to wait until they're in the ring every week. You never know with this sport. It's a crazy sport, but hopefully, congrats on getting it done. Massive fight for the sport and the kind of fight we need.
What conclusions can boxing fans draw in terms of the current status of boxing with Showtime's perceived demise? If they're not going to continue with the sport, is the sport in a healthy place?
Yeah, look, I think any reduction in spend on the sport is not good from broadcasters, but at the same time, it's a highly competitive market. With more entrants into the sport, sometimes that means people will leave because they don't want to spend the money to keep up with the competitors. Showtime, look, they've had a tremendous run this year. But like I say, we all want investment in the sport. It's not about not having competitors. It's about growing the sport and building the sport, and the more people backing it, the better for everyone involved. We'll always be competitors, but at the end of the day, we want a healthy sport. I think you'll see. I think you'll see PBC going another route with another broadcaster. But one thing about boxing that's always interesting, there's always new people coming in. There's always new broadcasters showing interest, new partners showing interest. I'm not concerned about sort of a demise of the sport at all. It reflects it. I just think for their business and where their business is going, businesses evolve, they change, and they look at things in a different way. They obviously went through a takeover, and they'll be looking at things, not just in boxing, but other things that maybe don't deliver what they need it to deliver. But like I say, I think we'll have other broadcasters come in and replace their place.
With the UFC and WWE merger deal to create Endeavour and a new company called TKO, kind of lends itself to the idea that potentially Dana White has always teased the idea of dipping into boxing and creating a promotion. Do you see that in the future? Do you see that as potential competition in the future?
Look, the TKO group, I think, needs a boxing arm. As part of that, UFC, obviously the biggest in MMA, WWE, we all know how big that is. And I think they need a boxing arm, and I definitely think they'll look at it. I think at the same time they have their focus on their businesses that are successful. Be interested to see what they decide to do. Maybe they bring someone in with a sort of a business already set up. I don't know, but again, I think it's all beneficial for the sport. More people coming in, more competition. It's good for the fighters. So yeah, I think it's good, and it's a huge move. Obviously, it's a $21 billion company now they've created there. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they decide to do.
That's the highest of the highs of the sport, and so is Anthony Joshua, who's a bit more kind of seen now on social media, presenting himself more. But what presents itself as a potential fight if a fight's happening towards the end of this year?
We're working through that now. Look, there's a lot of talk, obviously, about the Wilder fight. Still, it's a fight we all want to make. Whether it's realistic to be made this year, I don't think so. Whether that could be something that then holds up and moves back into early part of next year, maybe. Could there be other options for him as well? We're working through that all now. Speaking daily, I met with Freddie Cunningham yesterday, looking at opportunities and options, and I think in the next 7 to 10 days we'll have clarity on that.
Who stands to be a realistic opponent?
Again, I don't want to be. We come under so much stick for saying things and then they don't happen, and everyone goes, you did this, you said that, and then you did this. So I'd rather just say, let's see how the next 5 to 7 days goes. Maybe not as interesting as what Eddie would say, but let us focus on working to deliver something, and then we go from there.
Whether it be a AJ Wilder fight or a future AJ fight or a Eubank Jr. Ben fight, looking at boxing, looking at the data, would it be not a great word to use, but a foolhardy prospect to put a fight on the same potential date, that December 23rd, given that Fury Usyk might land on that date too?
Yeah, I don't see that fight landing on that date, in all honesty. And that's not to talk it. That's to say it's 7 weeks after the Ngannou fight. So anything, as we know in a fight, I'm not saying Ngannou's going to beat Tyson Fury, but could get cut. Anything could happen. Could get an injury. Could hurt his hand. You never know. But I also think because of the magnitude of the fight, it's a huge fight, Fury against Usyk. And they want to give it that build-up. Riyadh season, I think, runs until February or March. I'm not saying they're not looking at December 23rd as a date. I just think, in my opinion, and again, I know no facts. I'm not sitting here professing to be involved in any way, but I don't think it will take place that quickly, because you'll want to give it the right build-up time for ahead of the event.
What's the latest on Eubank Jr. Ben?
We're working on it. Discussions ongoing around locations, opportunities, but we're speaking daily, all the teams. It's the fight. Look, it's the biggest fight out there to be made. Nothing comes anywhere close to it for either of the guys. And I think everyone understands that. Everyone's on the same page with that. So now we need to work through, where that's going to be. And December 23rd is a date that we're very much looking at.
Last few things to work through in this interview. I saw a picture of De La Hoya and Bob Arum coming together and saying, look, we need to make fights. You talked about making fights earlier. Matchroom, of course, do work with other promoters, but will there be more of a significant push to work with promoters in the UK to create big fights?
Yeah, look, we always, as you say, we always work with promoters. We always have. Whether that be Queensbury, whether that be Boxer. We've done it on multiple occasions. Top Rank, Golden Boy. We're working on some opportunities with Golden Boy currently as well. It's never been from us, a lack of opportunity to work together. If it makes sense for our fighters, then we'll always do it. But I think it's always good for the sport. Look, Oscar's one of the most outspoken people out there about not working with other people and talking down about other people. So hopefully this is a turn. And I don't personally think personal relationships between certain people, i.e. Eddie and Oscar, always make a difference, because then you got people like myself, and I'll speak to Eric Gomez, for example. We all just want to make the best possible opportunities and the best fights. So I'm confident that we'll continue working with all the other promoters. And again, look, I can't sit here and say we obviously have obligations to each of our individual broadcasters, but at the same time, if we can make business that makes sense for everyone, then we always will.
Hungary and Ryder close?
That's one of the ones we're working on now. Yeah, I think, look, they were working hard, obviously, on the Ryan Garcia fight, which I understand is a massive fight. He's come back. Great fight as well against Duarte as well. A real tough fight. But now we always said they're going to work on getting that done, and then we move move forward into these discussions. But I've been speaking to Eric Gomez about it, and I'm very confident that gets made.
Bit of a controversial moment, one, I suppose, in your career in terms of being an interviewee a couple of weeks back in terms of your comments about builders. Look, I've said it as other people have said it. I don't think it was meant in the same way, but looking at it as a black and white, not the best of looks from a Matchroom CEO. Just your reaction, to that moment.
Yeah, look, it was 1:30 in the morning. I've watched it back. I didn't really deliver my message too well. I'm not going to sit here and say it was a tremendous wording. If I would have said any other job than builder, no one would have given it any thought. It was never about an individual being a builder. It was just about, But I apologise if I offended any builders. And it's, I think the statement is more around we have to rather than him having to explain himself to every single individual, we have to let the people who are specialists and understand the field. I don't understand it. I've said it on multiple occasions. So when I said a select role, that was my bad. But we have to let the people who are specialists within the field decide his fate, not an individual trial from every single person. It's I went away hiding for a week, and now I'm back. I thought I'd let my Twitter die down. It finally has. But yeah, everyone had a bit of fun. I saw Carl Froch in his vest. He looked good in that. Saw Simon Jordan piping up. As always, jumping on the agenda bandwagon. So, if there's any way they can try and talk us down or use me in a way to say I've said something detrimental. And look, people connected it to being working class. It was nothing to do with that. People said I said about working class. I didn't say anything about working class. And like I say, if I would have said a different role, no one would have said anything. I've worked my way up from nothing. People think I'm a rich kid that met Eddie. I've worked my way up from nothing. I've much respect for everyone in the world, regardless of what role they're in. You know me. You've known me for a long time. So, but yeah, it's one of those things. 7 years of not saying anything controversial, and then I did 1.2 million views. So now I'm going back into hiding and going to stay very safe and not say anything that gets me in any trouble, mate.
Give you the opportunity to kind of clarify the point, because the crux of the point is kind of being lost in it. In terms of maybe fans who are seeking kind of clarification, scientific or otherwise, on the Ben status. Do you feel they're deserving of that if they're looking for it? And do you think they will get that if they are looking for it?
My position was more, let the people who are specialists within this field decide his fate. And whether we argue, well, not we, but whether people will argue he's not cleared, he's this, he's that. He's been through a number of processes with people whose job it is to decide his fate. Like with all of these things, maybe my comparison as well with a criminal court, a lot of these things don't become public, and that's just the reality of it. It's not up to me. That's up to the people involved. Hence why any NADP hearing is confidential. And they put it out in their own statement. So my piece was more to do with let the people who are specialists decide his fate, rather than. But look, people are always going to have their opinion on him, and that's the joy of the world we live in. You can have an opinion on anything. Like I say, I didn't position it that well in what I said, but that was my meaning of it, is we have to let the people whose job it is to decide this make their decisions.
Conversation, Frank, appreciate it. Thank you. It's been SecondsOut. Good stuff.